I'm very happy to be talking to Meg McRae from a band called Breathe this week. Hi Meg, how are you?
Hi Tim, it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to meet you because we were supposed to meet last November, weren't we, when you were scheduled to play at New Music Nights, and we all know what happened. So we
World
haven't had a
fell apart.
chance to see you live, have we? But we've heard quite a lot of your music, what you're doing. Can you just start by telling our viewers a bit about Breathe Band? What sort of music? How would you describe yourselves?
Well, we kind of have coined a phrase, hyper folk, just because if you do get the chance to see us live, hopefully soon, you'll see how busy and energetic we are usually on while we're performing. So, I mean, especially the percussionist who's all over the place doing different instruments,
Right.
so there's a lot of energy involved. So, but we do draw influences from quite a lot of different styles of music. I mean, my style is quite different to Pete's. And Hillary's obviously a classically trained cellist. So between the three of us, we kind of come up with a hybrid sort of Americana, but with our own melodic twist.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting lineup, isn't it? Your vocals and you play guitar as well, don't you? And then you got Pete on percussion and Hillary on the cello. I mean, that's I suppose that's a lineup that suggests folky. The strings in there is going to be an influence, isn't it? And I think you've also worked with violinists. Is that right? On some of your recording?
Yes. Well, when over the lockdown periods, we started recording remotely, but we'd met a violinist just before lockdown at one of the gigs we played,
Mm-hmm.
and she was quite keen to collaborate with us as well. So once we'd got some of our recordings down, we were able to send them off to her. So she put down some really, beautiful strings, and it really accompanied the cello
Yeah.
beautifully. So yeah, it's kind of just a mixture of all these different acoustic instruments. I mean, we love experimenting with the different acoustic sounds and seeing what we can come up with.
That seems to be something that people have done over lockdown. They've kind of taken the opportunity to collaborate and use the technology that we have these days to record and add interesting layers to the music they were making before, which maybe that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had this kind of enforced break from playing live. Do you feel that it's almost forced you to
Definitely.
think
But
creatively?
I think the main issue was, I mean, we were scheduled to go into the studio to start recording our second EP just as the second lockdown came in. I mean, the first lockdown came in, so that kind of scuppered all our plans. But Pete had a really old 8-track sat on the shelf at home, and
Yeah.
so he pulled that down and dusted it off and fired that up, and so we were able to lay down our tracks in my front room. Basically, our whole
Right.
second EP was recorded in my front room and then sent off remotely to all these other people to put their parts down on it. So,
Yeah.
had it not been for that 8-track, we probably would have been a bit stymied technology wise, because everything was happening in a studio for us.
Yeah.
But as I say, fortunately, he had this old piece of technology that we were
Yeah.
able to dust off and use. So yeah, it worked out well for us. But it was definitely quite tricky to get your head around all the technical stuff that
Yeah.
you suddenly had to now start doing for yourself,
Yeah.
whereas before an engineer would be sorting all of that out for you. So we've
Yeah.
learnt a lot over the year as well.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people have been adding those new strings to their bows. Just tell us a bit about how you got together, because you formed in 2019. Your biog says you got together accidentally. So how did that happen?
Pete and I met in a bar, and obviously both coming from musical backgrounds, we got chatting, and then we went off to an open mic not long after that, and we'd never played before together, and we got up and did a couple of songs, and it went down really well. So yeah, we just kind of it just went from there.
No, yeah.
We both had or have our own bands as well. At that point, I was in a 4-piece with some other friends of mine called Meg and the Freeloaders, and Pete was always in a hardcore punk band called People. So, you
Right.
know, so we kind of met and formed more of an acoustic thing, which was quite a nice release away from the heavier rock and the heavier punk kind of stuff. So
Yeah. You've got a new release coming up in April, haven't you, called Seeing Things, which I've listened to, and it is a more rocky sound than the folky sound of Clutter, which you'd sent me before. So is that a bit of that punk influence coming to the fore, or?
Possibly. Seeing Things was actually, we recorded a more stripped down version on our first EP, but it still had the electric guitar, and the engineer put the electric guitar down for us, just because it kind of had a more rockier feel and kind of needed that.
Yeah.
But it was lacking being, stripped down only as a three-piece. It needed, because the first EP, Pete was only playing on a cajon, so we wanted a fuller band sound, especially for that song, because it kind of, it called for it. So,
Yeah.
and it's got a real rocky beat, which is quite uplifting. So we have full band, needs proper bass,
Right.
proper drums. So.
Lyrics wise, it's a kind of a coming out of lockdown song, isn't it? And also with Clutter, I mean, Clutter, I think you describe it as a song about grappling with your own thoughts, which I think a lot of people have been doing over the last year. Does that tend to be the sort of thing you write about? Who writes the lyrics? Is that you?
Yes, I mean, I have written probably 99% of the songs and the lyrics. Pete has done a few lyrics here and there, and sometimes he'll come up with some beautiful melodies as well. So it's kind of a mixture. But Seeing Things was quite an old song of mine that I'd written a long time ago. And Clutter was a new song I wrote last year, in fact, and it did focus very much on people's mental health, and it's just the fact that it's all just a bit hectic to take in and deal with sometimes, but you kind of got to prevail. And so my writing's more abstract, whereas Pete's always been a bit more probably politically charged. So.
Right. Hence the punk band.
yeah, definitely.
And so, tell us about the sort of venues you were playing before lockdown. I mean, I guess if you formed in 2019, you didn't have much chance to get out and gig before they shut it all down again. But are you from Kingston? Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, I live in Kingston, and Pete lives in Surrey. He actually lives in Redhill, so
okay, local boy.
He's just around the corner from you guys. So, we started out obviously. We took our songs first of all to the open mic scene, and we did quite a lot of the open mic scene over 2019, and then we were starting to progress further afield to other promoters, like in South London, Southeast London, and we were just starting to get somewhere. We had quite a few gigs booked in. We were going to be booked in to do the Van Fest, and there were a whole lot of other Nunhead Festival, so we were just starting to break into a wider stream of gigging, and then everything locked down. So it's just like really annoying.
So how are you going to make sure that doesn't kind of hamper your progress when you're allowed out again? And what plans have you got for this year? Have you kind of got a campaign plan to get out and start playing again?
Well, obviously it's really hard when you're doing everything yourself, I mean, Pete and I have done all the recordings, engineered them, and then sent them off to another studio engineer just to kind of spruce them up a bit. I've been doing all the campaigning. I've had to do a lot of research to figure out how the best way is to get singles out there. It's all quite a lot to take in when it's just two of you doing what essentially a huge record company would be doing. So I think our focus last year, a lot of people focused on doing a lot of live stream gigs, where Pete and I didn't, because it just, I don't know, we just put all our effort and energy into all these recordings, which I think has kind of paid off, because now we have a product to take forward with us, and it's easier to promote yourself if you've got a product behind you.
Right. Yeah.
You can send people to these links. You can send people, oh, listen to it on here, listen to it there. So you've got something to promote and work with.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that it will grow organically as well. The more we promote something and more effort and time we put into promoting it as much as we can, that it will also help increase our chances to get a few more gigs in. So, it's always just a slow building process, really.
Of course. You must be itching to get out and perform these songs, though, having, put all this work into recording them.
We are, but probably a bit nervous as well, because we haven't played live for a while. During the summer periods, we did practiced quite a lot in my back garden. You know, we had a big fire pit, and
Right.
you know, the different band members were strewn across different corners of the garden, which was really nice. And we did do one gig up in Nutfield at that the station pub. So
Oh,
that, I think that was pretty much our last proper gig that we did towards the end of summer. So yeah, we are itching to get out there again, but you
yeah.
know, at the same time, I think we need to have a few practice rounds in my garden again before we do that. So
Yeah. Well, you do that because we're itching to actually, you know, get you to come and play at New Music Nights eventually. Once we can do that, so we look forward to seeing you as soon as possible. But thanks very much for coming on and talking to us today, Meg. It's been really
oh,
good to meet you finally and to
oh
hear
yes,
more
you
about
too.
food.
And thank you so much for all the support you guys give, obviously, to new music as well. I mean, you know, it's really hard being an independent artist, doing everything for yourself, and then it's kind of like, you know, it goes both ways, really. You've got to
Yeah.
support each other. So
Yeah. Well, it's
thank
good fun and people love it. People love hearing new music. So more power to your elbow. Keep it going.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg. Bye bye.